Welcome everyone to the Comics to Movies and More live stream. I'm Sean from Comics to Movies, and tonight we have Stephen, our co-host, as well as our special guest, Bradley Adan. How you going, guys?
Hey, good to be here.
How you doing, mate?
Not too bad, not too bad. So today we're going to talk about number twos, so issue twos and what makes an issue two a good issue two. We're going to also talk about Terminator 2 to tie in with that, because it's, I feel, one of the best sequels ever to kind of be created. And then we're going to throw it over to you, mate, to have a talk about your current Kickstarter that you've got at the moment, as well as your creative career, and go from there.
Sounds
cool.
good.
Sounds great.
And your Kickstarter's issue 2 as well. Funny that.
No, it's issue 3.
Issue 3. Wow. I take that back. Yep, one step ahead. We'll issue 3 next week. But no, it's really good.
Yeah, well, I can see that we've already got a few people on live with us again. So thank you very much for everyone that continues to come on live. As always, chuck a hello in the comments. We will give you guys a shout out and say thank you very much as well throughout the conversation. We'll answer any questions that you've got as well. So we're trying to make this as interactive as possible. So we're super excited that in the last week we crossed our 100 subscribers. So, Stephen, I'm super happy with that. So thank you very much to everyone that's out there that's subscribed.
Everybody so subscribe. Thank you, everybody.
What are you doing? Subscribe.
You got to make sure to hit that little bell too, so you get notified. Isn't that how the YouTubers do it now?
And notification.
That's it. I forget to tell people about the bell. You need the bell. You have to hit the bell. So, okay. So let's dive straight into this. Terminator 2, guys. For me, I feel like it is the best, if not one of the best sequels ever to be made, and definitely a sequel that's better than the actual original. What do you guys think about that? Big call, or?
I agree.
100%. That and Alien and Aliens. I think the biggest thing that T2 actually did, it actually had it jumped genre. The original Terminator was almost pure horror. It was a horror movie. It was sci-fi, but it was a horror movie. You had elements where Arnie's picking out his eyeball, and and all the rest of it. It was very visceral. It was a horror movie. But it moved from the horror movie to an action movie, which I really like. So talking a little bit into story dynamics, a really good sequel or really good issue 2 does 3 big things. Number 1, it expands the universe. So in issue 1, you have a subset of the universe, and issue 2 has to push that universe forward. T2 does that really well. You got to see the future a lot more. You got to see a lot more of, what's out there. Sarah Connor's older. The other thing that has to happen is you have to push the characters. In the first Terminator, Sarah Connor was a damsel in distress. Carl Reese, was protecting her and all the rest of it. But she was out of her depth. In the end, she did step up. But in Terminator 2, man, she is a total different character. So that character level has then been pushed beyond what it was in the original Terminator. And the last thing which I really liked was it pushed the plot forward. So the plot was organically pushed forward in terms of, you know what? The story's changed. And again, that genre jump I thought was really, really well done. So it ticked all the boxes, universe, plot, and characters. Bradley?
So I only watched Terminator 2 yesterday for the first time.
What? No way.
It actually came out in the same year that I was born. And honestly, Sorry. Look, I do agree. I would say that, like, even though, like what you said, Stephen, like the first movie was very much in the horror genre, it still did have that action element, which made it very easy for them to jump into a more action-orientated sequel. And like you said, it pushes and realistically looks at how the characters would have grown from those situations that they were thrust into, especially Sarah. Well, actually, she's kind of the only character you kind of have a point of reference for between the two movies, because obviously the T-800s are different versions of the same robot.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. I think with the way Sarah's plot had changed. She's like this crazy person, but a super kick-ass person. And then you also get introduced to John at that tipping age for young men as well, that 13, 14-year age mark where you're kind of very impressionable and you can see he's kind of going off the tracks a little bit. And I think this one just had a great story development, great character development, where the first one was great, and I loved the concept and idea of it, but there didn't seem to kind of be that character development out of the whole movie type of thing. It was really about a guy saving a girl and impregnating her so she can save the world. But sorry, spoilers if you haven't seen it.
No. I mean, what? It's over 30 years old now, that first one?
Yeah, thanks. So. Thanks for that, mate. Thanks.
Sorry. I was more like, yeah, okay.
So, but I think you hit the nail on the head, Stephen. In regards to a sequel, it needs to add not only to the character development, but to the lore. And I feel like with Terminator 3 and then the other kind of Terminators that they've done is I feel like they fell into the trap that they actually didn't add to the lore. They just either tried to fix up what was going on, or gloss over what someone else has done, and kind of didn't really intertwine it and have the character development that T2 kind of had. So but I guess that's what you get when you have multiple hands touch a property as well.
Yep, I actually sent a link to both people here, up and down, today. Just that on one point, that one deleted scene that actually I understand why the deleted scene was removed, but I really wish they had let it in. So in the deleted scene, it's not huge spoilers, but there was a scene where they where John Connor and Sarah Connor cut open Arnie's head and basically set his chip from read only to write mode. And I thought that in terms of character building, I thought that was huge, because it then actually led into Dark Fate and all the rest of the Terminator movies, where you see Arnie actually learn and develop. And just that small little scene, I think for the mythos would have been excellent to have left in, just showing that Arnie was in write mode, instead of just read only mode.
Yeah, I do remember seeing that in the extended edition. I think it was the 10-year anniversary edition, had a silver cover back on these old things called DVDs. I'm not sure if you know what they are, Bradley, but we had DVDs before Blu-rays, or streaming. But I can remember watching that scene, but it was fun watching it again after you sent me that YouTube one, because I 100% agree. Like, I loved Arnie's development in that, and the way that John got him to kind of expand on his language and try and be more human and everything. But that scene where they actually take his chip out of his head and put it in, and actually show how they're doing that and how he's able to kind of do it, I thought was amazing. Got a bit of feedback there.
And I like that as well because that actually tied in very well to the first Terminator movie where they, you've seen the first Terminator where Arnie is trying to repair himself and he pulls his eyeball out and he pulls the skin half out and he's trying to fix bits and pieces up to him. It had that same feeling because that's basically they rip open his head and you could see right through to his empty skull, which I thought, man, that brings back a little bit the horror aspect of Terminator, which T2 actually lost a lot of his horror, that dark scenes and whatever. I mean, I absolutely loved it, but the horror came not with Arnie, but the horror came with the T1000 when he just basically murders people, the serial killer horror thing.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I've loved about doing this podcast is going back and watching some of these films, and I can still remember. This is how I'm showing my age, but I still remember getting Appetite of Destruction by Guns N' Roses on a cassette tape, and re-listening to some of the songs that were on Terminator 2 by Guns N' Roses. I was just like, man, how have I not watched this film for so long? It's absolutely fantastic. And then it was funny, I was watching another podcast and they were talking about movies that they thought were better than the original, and this is the one that I jumped to straight away. And as you said, Stephen, the second one that got that they were talking about was Aliens. And similar to what you said about this one, they said like the first one was a very horror, you don't see the monster type of movie, where the second one was like a pure, almost wartime type movie. So
Oh, definitely.
It's kind of more of an action thriller, wasn't it?
Oh, definitely. Aliens changed genre as well, and Aliens also did. And I really like what they did for these movies. In the original movie for Aliens, Ripley was basically, guys, just listen to me. Don't do this. Don't do this. And she was basically, she felt a little bit naggy. And but in Aliens, she's like, no, you guys, I told you once to listen to me, and look what happened. You guys are going to listen to me now, and basically all these Marines and stuff started going, you know what? You survived this. I'm actually listening to you now. I mean, there was that one, of course, the sleazy guy from the corporation. Of course, you had to have somebody like that. But on the whole, every other Marine listened to what Ripley said. When Ripley said jump, they were like, yep, we will set the perimeter up. We will do this. And I thought that was brilliant. Just that change in how the leads took it. Like, again, Sarah Connor, damsel in distress.
Yeah.
Now the mother of the future resistance. And I loved it. I really loved how they pushed that character forward.
yeah, I was really interested when I found out like the original Terminator was done on a super low budget. And one of the favorite stories I found out about that was the scene where Arnie breaks in, smashes the car window and grabs the jacket out of the window. James Cameron actually told him to do that. That wasn't part of the actual script. But the thing was that car also wasn't part of the production. That was someone's actual car that he smashed. It was a real window. He smashed a real window and grabbed someone's jacket out of the car. So I was like, are you kidding me? That just made that scene like even more epic type of thing. So,
But the other thing would be, as well as T2, the special effects, even now, they still stand up. It's scary how well 30-year-old movies, and even for Aliens, how well those special effects still stand up
I was
compared
going to
to
ask
the
Isn't
you,
it
effects
Bradley,
that's available now.
you haven't,
I mean,
you haven't,
a lot
it's the
of
first time you've seen it. So what did you think of the effects in that? Did you agree with Steve? Did it hold up to your Avengers Endgame?
so I went into a bit of a deep dive after I watched the movie because there was a few things bugging me about the lore, just on the time travel aspects. But I found a lot of information about how there was barely any digital CGI in the movie. It was mainly all practical effects. And I mean, you look at Jurassic Park and all the physical effects that they used in that, and it goes to show how much practical effects will have a much longer longevity than digital special effects will because of the increase in technology over time.
No,
So
100% agree.
Yeah, I agree
Yeah,
too.
sorry. Sorry, in summation, yes, I agreed. It was good, apart from a couple of the CGI effects with Mercury Man.
Did you watch the first one as well, or had you already seen the first one?
I had already seen the first one, yeah. Yeah. Just I never kind of got a chance or got around to watching any of the others except for you guys are gonna hate me, Salvation, which at the time I saw it, I'd only seen Salvation, and I thought it was a decent action movie. Now going back and watching the other two movies, and it's still a decent action movie. But yeah,
I think that introduced a lot of people to the Terminator franchise that had never watched it before. But I 100% agree with you. When they go back and watch T2, then it's like, oh my god, did this actually come after that? Like that is so much better than this. But yeah, it's. I think there goes something to say when someone creates it and it comes from them and they absolutely love it. It's really hard to replicate that again. So as much as a fan might love Star Wars, we always seem to talk about Star Wars on this this stream, but as much as someone loves Star Wars, they're never ever going to be George Lucas. And that's very hard to replicate. And James Cameron is another one of those people that just have these visionary ideas and are really able to get across certain aspects that when you're not the person that created it are able to get across, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. I'm just reading some of the comments from the stream, and since we bring up Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, that was a genre change as well. So in the first Star Wars was, and this is before George Lucas envisioned Episode 4, whatever. Star Wars was originally planned for a single movie because nobody had any idea what was going to happen beyond that. And I like that they actually put the cliffhanger on Empire because back then nobody ever did that to movies, and that's why I thought it was really well done. And it genre changed. The good guys didn't win. It was tough. At the end of Empire, everybody was screwed. Han was in carbonite. Luke's lost his hand. Everything was messed up. So, and that's something I thought was, in terms of flipping the switch, I thought that was really well done. So I have to say, props to Empire for it expanded the universe, the characters got deeper, and man, did the story change. So all the boxes again, tick, tick, tick.
Yeah, and I think if I remember correctly, I'm not sure whether Return of the Jedi, whether that had been announced that it was going to be a trilogy. So to end a movie like that with, I am your father and him actually, being defeated as well. That's such yeah, it's such an epic finish to a sequel, and I thought that again was a great way to change the narrative. The good guy doesn't always win. I think that's something that I've really loved in my storytelling in regards to that the hero doesn't always win. Life isn't always rainbows and lollipops, and I actually like that we all struggle, and it's about, as Rocky would say, it's not about how hard you hit, it's about how hard you hit, you get up and you can keep moving forward, type of thing. And I love that mythology around writing and all that. So
I know, definitely. And I look, and this is a point for me, I've always find it in terms of, say, more for children's books than anything else. I love children's books which have sad endings, where it's a set conclusion. Don't get me wrong. The story concludes and it wraps things up nicely, but it doesn't always have to be happy. And I think when you're writing to kids and you always make it the extra sweet happy ending, everything works out. I don't like that. And I think it's actually very pandering. I much prefer to, you know what? It's a conclusion, it's an ending, but guess what? It's bittersweet. It's not quite the way everybody has to pan out. The lovers have to say goodbye to each other for whatever reason. Oh man, if you can write, and I think kids actually really, really enjoy that because it gives them a perspective. You know what? Nothing's perfect, and when you can relate to something that's not perfect, that's art. Art isn't perfection. Art. What did they say? Man, I'm gonna butcher this quote like something else, but uh, um, art is finding imperfection in perfection. It's not the quite quote, but it's basically it's the things that are wrong that makes it nice, not the things that are right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love. My wife always complains because I show my daughter all these Disney movies, and she's like, "Oh, these are horrible." The father dies. Mufasa dies, and the Lion King. This is horrible, and I'm like, "Well, it's all about teaching kids life lessons. And there's certain aspects. That whole movie is about the circle of life, and that means losing a loved one, becoming the person you're supposed to do, and then in passing that knowledge on to the next generation when you move on, type of thing. And I love that deeper meaning to stories, and it's great because all three of us here are writers. And I want to throw this to you, Bradley. When you're writing Super Battle Ready Armor, did I get that right? No, I got that wrong, didn't I?
You did, but it's okay. The title's too long. You had the right words.
Oh well, yay me! but how'd you go about this the third issue that you're writing? How'd you go about working out where you were going to stop issue one, then issue two, and then in your writing process?
So I do take a lot of inspiration from manga and Japanese creations and things like that. And there's I've forgotten her name, but the writer and illustrator to Full Metal Alchemist actually said something that really stuck with me when I was younger about how to write manga chapters, and or even anything that's like episodic. You want to have a beginning, a middle, and an end at each section of your, I guess in this case, chapters or issues. And I'd kind of try and always end off on a cliffhanger, so it always will keep it in the back of your head until, well, hopefully until the next issue comes out.
That's great because we actually spoke about this before. Because for me, you've said your inspiration is from manga and that type of stuff. Mine's always been movies or TV series. So whenever I'm writing, it is like that. It's like, okay, well, how would an episode end? Type of thing. It's got that cliffhanger. It's got all that hook. Someone says something, or you end on a certain object or something like that, and then that's hooking that next person in. But I do understand, like with all comics and everything, the issue one or issue zero always seems to sell more because you get the people that are interested in your series, but you also get the collectors and everything that they want the issue one and everything. How do you go about increasing your sales for a second and third issue?
It's been very interesting because this isn't the first time I have written Super Ready Battle Armour, so I kind of have done a reboot as well, which has made the learning experience very different from the first time I did my first issue 2 of Super Ready Battle Armour. Initially, I didn't really think much of it. I just kind of would keep... Sorry, I got distracted by the comment.
Thanks, Kieran. Thanks, mate. Thanks.
God, I lost my train of thought. I would just kind of be focused on getting the the story out as much as I kind of how I wanted it structured, and everyone else, I guess, was not so much as an afterthought, but it was my project, and I wanted to have it formulated the way that I wanted. Everyone else be damned. Going back into it, I can see how much of a stupid child I was in thinking that, where I need other people to read my books before I can keep creating them. So I forgot what the question was.
No, that's amazing, mate, and it's really good to hear someone say that, because I think the biggest trap as creators that we fall into is we're like, we want to tell this story. I don't care how we tell this story. I want this story to be told. As you said, everyone else be damned, and I'm just going to tell this story. Now that's great. But then you soon find if you don't cater to a certain audience, or that audience isn't there, then you quite quickly fall on your face and you don't get to actually, write or tell the story that you want to do. So there is that fine line between telling the story that you want, but also making sure that you're telling it in a way and tailoring it to a certain audience that you can get that following. So I think that's an amazing thing, and something that, if you've learned, is absolutely great. What did you think, Stephen?
Yeah, look, I've actually been lucky in terms of the way my graphic novels has progressed. That issue 2 and issue 3 have always been bigger than issue 1, and what I think, and I'm really hoping it's gone that way, is that issue 1 was the hook, and like I said, issue 1 you actually don't get too much story in. And as much as you try to cram in the story, you've got the world building, you've got the character development involved. But when you get into issue 2 and 3, man, you can have fun. And I hope when people do read the next second and third issue of whatever we do, they can see the fun that's involved, because you don't have to talk. You skip the origin story. You don't have to talk about how they got to where they are. They're just there, and then you can expand from there. And I love it.
Do you know who did that? I think 100% great was when they reintroduced Spider-Man into the MCU. They didn't worry about telling the origin story again. They just went straight in and told Spider-Man's there. He's a kid from Queens. Tony Stark knows about him, and they've just had him straight into Civil War type of thing. I thought that was amazing. Why spend, especially on a character that so many people know? I thought that was a great. Now we can't do that in our industry, because we need people to know and get to love our characters. And I think 100%, I will divulge some information, but you sent me the script to Terra Olympus Volume 3 during the week, and we both said, it was fun to kind of, let everything hang out in the next volume in regards to a lot more action, a lot more, just having fun with the issue, rather than, that whole setting up of a story and everything. So,
Yep. Oh,
it's like setting up the dominoes. The first couple of issues, you're setting them all up, and then issue 3 happens, and you just flick it, and it all kind of rolls, and all the hard work pays off, and you end up having fun with your creation.
Yep.
That's a great analogy. I like that.
Yeah. And that's actually a really good segue, because what are you bringing us?
We're sponsored by Domino's?
No.
I wish, but I'm going to send this video to them now, so we can monetize this. So thank you very much, Domino's.
You're welcome.
Give me a call.
Okay, the segue which I was hoping to hit was, now that we're going to hit issue 3, it's a great time to watch your video now. So the video just for people in the chat, Bradley's has an amazing Kickstarter that's currently running. It is an issue 3. We'll go through rewards a bit later, but I'm assuming there's issue 1 and 2 if they want to pick up to catch up with the story.
Definitely.
But let's watch the video. Let's take a look.
And I will pronounce it correctly this time. It's Super Ready Battle Armour, and it's for issue 3. So there we go. When I can read off a screen, it's much easier. So, but and I didn't tell you this, but we unfortunately do embarrass all of our guests by playing their video live. So we'll do that first, and then we'll let you jump in after that to give us the pitch. So here we go.
Can you check the sound? I don't think it's coming through.
No, I've done it again, have I? No,
Yeah.
No sound?
No sound. Let's try it again.
Okay, there we go. I apologise, everyone. I'm still learning at this, and it's all fun and games. So I think I've got it ready right this time. So here we go.
Hey there. Thanks for checking out the Kickstarter for Super Ready Battle Armour Issue 3, Down the Rabbit Hole. After the abduction of their leader, Iron, and the attack on the Iron Weights HQ, the members of the Iron Weights gang were either scattered or dead. We left off Issue 2 with Infector trying his best to rescue BA from the burning building, which was the Iron Weights Community Center, only to be gunned down by Mikola. Just as the gunshot rings out, Violet emerges from the burning building, only to see something strange, a transforming beast that picked up BA's lifeless body, suddenly escaping into the night. Down the Rabbit Hole picks up immediately afterwards. Infector has made his way home to Super Ready Industries, back to Professor Insanus. Violet also arrives at the lab demanding answers for what she has just witnessed, and Eclair attempts to try and bring her brother BA home and is informed of his passing by their mother. As always, we have a bunch of great loot for you to get your hands on, including comic books, digital comics, and our first badge set. If we raise our goal, we have a few stretch goals available as well. Thank you once again for checking out this Kickstarter, and we hope that you join us in the making of this exciting comic book series. Thank you.
Wow, what a sultry voice.
Oh, well, that was painful.
I did warn you. I did.
Oh dear.
So this for issue 3. We can see at the moment your aim is to raise $1,500, and you're just over halfway there at $767 from 19 backers with still 18 days to go. That's pretty good.
I am excited. I am absolutely stoked by the reception so far.
Okay, so this is issue 3. So with the series, can you give us a little of a backstory on the first 2 issues and why people should pick up this third issue?
You mean apart from the reason that I just want to create a story that's specifically told? No. So at its core, Super Ready Battle Armour is a superhero, more story, more in the vein of like your shonen action series over in Japan. It is very slapstick in its comedy to offset its very dark aspects. The initial idea was formulated via late night anime binging and kind of just rolled from there. Issue 1 starts off in the fictional setting of Utopia, which is the city that it is based in, and it starts off with balls to the wall action for the first few pages, just to give you guys a bit of a taste of some of the things that are coming along down the track, because origin stories, it's a little bit slow paced to begin with to get into some of the action, and going forward from there, it all focuses on only half of the cast for the first issue, because I felt that the original run, I threw way too much information at the audience to be early on. I decided this time around I would stagger it out a little bit further and have kind of like how Game of Thrones does its chapters perspective on only a certain aspect of the cast of their huge characters. The first issue is focused solely around the Iron Weights gang and BA in their escapades in trying to keep their neighborhood safe and protected from other gang warfare that's going on in the city.
Awesome.
And yeah, issue 2 kind of takes place at the same time and then a little bit afterwards. And then the two stories kind of merge and become the one aspect in issue 3.
That's really cool. I like that concept. We were talking about what makes a good issue 1, and we always talk about, well, there's a fine balance between building up a character and having a certain amount of action or no action. So to start off straight out of the gate with some action is absolutely phenomenal. Now the art on this is this an Australian artist or international artist? Because the artwork on this is absolutely phenomenal.
So my artist is actually from Bolivia. His name's Luis Roldan, and he specializes primarily in anime manga style artwork, and has actually done quite a few manga competitions over there and has won some accolades as well.
Wow, yeah, it's pretty amazing, amazing artwork there. So, so I'm guessing that you've got some rewards here. You've got the digital copy as well as the print copy. You can get your bundles, so all three comics in one. Is that correct?
Yes. Yep.
And I suppose you ship
So-
international as well, in case there's somebody here
Yes,
who's
we
not from
are.
Australia. Yep.
Yeah, so the last week we had one of our guests on, and he'd set all of the actual pledges up with non-international shipping, and I didn't realize.
Ruben.
I was like, oh, yeah, I was like, oh, you need to just go in and change it. But I forgot that once someone's pledged at that level, you cannot edit the reward. So I was waiting for him to do it so I could back at the physical level, but I'll now have to go back and back at the digital level. Now Stephen was asking me during the week, going, have you backed yet? I've gone, oh, he hasn't fixed up the postage thing yet, but unfortunately you can't do that. So that is a good crowdfunding tip. If you guys are ever crowdfunding, make sure that you check all of the postage details and costs, because you don't want to get caught out by cutting off half your audience type of thing.
Although a way around it that he could is create a new pledge and then ask everyone that's international to move to that new pledge.
That's a good idea. I might message him after this and say, hey, mate, create a new pledge for international. So
might be what he needs.
So you mentioned you had some pin set or something, some really cool rewards as well. So we can see you've got So tell us about those.
So we actually started making the press badge pins. I can't remember what they actually call them now. So we've got 4 variants of those, and you get all 4 in the our first badge pack, which comes with 2 of our main important characters from the first 2 issues, as well as a new character from the issue 3, who is Susan, the sophisticated AI robot who looks like a bucket and a mop. and the logo.
Okay.
Nice. And you also do
Yeah.
retail bundles, I see.
Yep.
So you have a few stores stock those.
I haven't had any of the retail bundles go off for this one, but we have. Kieran and I have got our comics based in D's and a couple of other comic stores around Australia as well.
Since you mentioned these, shout out to Brendan. Like, he's probably one of the biggest supporters of all Australian comics. He's phenomenal. Like, he basically supports this industry. And look, to be really fair, being a comic shop owner right now, it's tough. And but he still always goes, you know what? Let's get your book into my stores. Let me help promote it. Let me help you out with that. The guy's a beast. He's fantastic.
He is amazing.
Yeah, and these are the rewards I always love to look at is what are your premium tier rewards that you offer. So with this, you've got your artist actually does this all traditionally, does he? So you've got original artwork that you're able to sell off.
Yep. So he does
that's-
a bit of a hybridization between the two.
Yeah, I've seen that. That's become a little bit more popular. If people aren't totally digital artists, that they actually do some pencil and inks and then scan it in and then do grey tones and extra shading and lighting and everything on digitally. So that's great. And the highest premium tier is that getting drawn into the book.
Yes. You'll be one of the characters in issue 3. There's only 2 spots available.
That's
Fantastic.
cool.
Look, and that's my favorite reward out of everything. Like, if any Kickstarter I see, if you can get your little cameo in there, it's always a lot of fun. Just as a reminder, guys, we are monitoring the chat that way. So if you guys just keep adding any questions that comes through, Bradley's going to stay online for quite a bit longer. So he'll basically answer any questions that come out from there.
Yes, postage overseas is a killer.
Yeah, George has just sent a question for those that aren't watching this back live, but George said postage overseas is a killer. It is. The good thing I will say about Kickstarter is people that back through Kickstarter, especially international backers, kind of understands the pricing in regards to shipping overseas. So I don't find that as much of a hurdle as it used to be, even though postage has gone up over time.
Look, let me give you the Australian Post one right now, and very depressing for everybody who wants to be a creator and want to ship overseas. Look, in most cases, you pack a couple of comics, a couple of badges, or some other really cool rewards. You're probably looking at just under 500 grams. To get that tracked overseas, I think to the US, it's $27. And you can check that on Australian Post. A tracked parcel, 500 grams, is $27. What I've done in most of my Kickstarter is I subsidize that from the book sale itself, because you know what, I'm thinking I'd rather have someone read it and not get scared away by the postage than have someone not read it and just go, you know what, postage is too high. And I'm not going to back it because I don't like digital. I like to hold a physical copy. So in most cases, I just go, you know what? Look, I'm happy to take some of the pain. But it is depressing. It is very depressing.
Yeah, I agree. I think with the international ones, I'll probably eat $5 to $7 of that to make it reasonable for shipping, and then even more so when it's a higher tier, try and organize that the shipping is incorporated in the price for one of those high tiers, because as soon as you do original artwork and it goes from being an A4 size to then an A3 size, that price of shipping jumps up considerably.
Yep. Oh, and just a tip for any of the creators who are, and I know a lot of people who joined the chat are also creators. I've stopped shipping anything bigger than A3. It just wasn't viable anymore. So the biggest reward I have is an A4 reward. Um, and I've also tried to avoid T-shirts or anything that's bulky, because if you can flat pack something and it fits under a certain size, your postage goes down some more. So basically, anything you can do to reduce postage, it's a win. And but it is depressing. It is very depressing on how much you get hit by it.
The tip I would give if you do ever want to do T-shirts is upload your image to Redbubble. If they're American buyers, you can then ship from Redbubble directly to them, still at your wholesale price. And shipping is either greatly reduced or in some instances free. So it does mean you need to ship 2 items, so you'll still need to ship your comic from here overseas. But in the actual regards to the T-shirt, you're able to then do that. So that's what I do with most of my T-shirt rewards. Is I just say, look, you'll get a parcel from Australia for this, and then you'll get another parcel in regards to the T-shirt.
Okay, so back to, and I'll get this right, Super Ready Battle Armour, and it's not even in front of me, so you can see that.
Thanks.
So be impressed. Where do you see it going? Like, I know you're up to issue 3, and I know, like, a lot of the backers here, they want to say, hey, look, this is not the end. I want to see where the story goes up to. How far have you got it planned out?
So I've got the first story arc planned out to roughly 12 chapters.
Okay, so 12 times 20. Gosh, my math is horrible. 240 pages.
Yeah, that took me a second to make it. Yeah, and that hopefully, being writers yourself, hopefully I can keep to that and not blow it out any further and try and keep myself constrained to a 12-issue run for the first sort of arc of the story. And if there is the support there, then I'll probably continue it out for another 12.
Okay. Look, I've asked the question. Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, so do definitely have a ending in mind for this. So that's cool.
Yeah.
And I mean, I love this question about the characters. Do all of them make it to the end?
Well, that's a hard question.
It's a big pause.
I mean, so okay, the main character, like in terms of abilities and things like that, Infector here can bring people back from the dead. So the big aspect of my story is how the characters deal with that, what it does to them, and how they deal with actual death as opposed to not a non-finite version of death because of Infector's viewpoint. Sorry, his abilities. And also what that does to the psyche of a person who has the power of a god and is unsure how to use it.
Okay. I'm just going to chuck the link into the chat right now, so as we keep talking. So if anybody does want to check it out while listening to us, feel free. The link is in the chat right now. Please do take a look at it. We'll keep discussing it right now, but I just want to make sure that everybody knows the link is in the chat. Click on it. As per usual, it helps support Australian comics. It's a great story. Artwork is very smick. Look if you can. And the great thing about it is it's available. If you haven't touched the series before, you can basically pick up the whole digital copy, or you can pick up the whole physical copy as well if you're so inclined. So back onto the story then. You're talking about not real death and real death. How does that play in your story? Because I always like the permanence of death. And one of my pet peeves in current comic book days is that And I understand why they do it, because it's very serialized. And new writers come on board, and you're just going, "Oh man, he killed this character on, but I really wanted to write him, so I'm going to bring him back." And it's that revolving door, and you hear, "Oh, we've killed this character. When are they he'll be back in 2 years." Like the death of Wolverine, he was always coming back. It was a marketing stunt. Death of Superman, he was always coming back. How do you deal with that, considering one of the characters can literally bring someone back from the dead?
Crippling weight and guilt on the character's psyche.
Cool.
From a basically, yeah. So
mic drop.
Yeah, but basically make him too scared to use the power, and there is something in his past that happened. I'm like trying to skirt around massive spoilers. Basically, he does attempt to bring someone very close to him back from the dead, and it doesn't work properly. He was very young at the time, and they turned into a grotesque monster and maybe killed a few hundred people.
So a bit Pet
So
Sematary.
that weight, basically, is that guilt is his shackle on his powers, essentially. So going into the first chapter, well, more so the second chapter, because that's the focal point is on Infect there. He wants to aspire to be something greater and wants to help people. As it stands at the start of his story in this universe, he actually works at a old folks home, trying to give back to the community that way, much to the resistance of Professor Insanus, who is his legal guardian after his parents passed away by mysterious circumstances. There may or may not be a secret organization that is hunting down his family to try and utilize his godlike powers for their own nefarious needs. But that may or may not be true. So yeah, it's interwoven into both a protective nature from his foster father and the guilt that he has for not having full control over his abilities and not knowing where they come from, what the extent of them is, and what could possibly happen to people that he brings back.
Okay.
I love that whole idea of Spider-Man, that with great power comes great responsibility, and I just love this kind of concept with your series in regards to, it's easy to make the decision, okay, we'll just bring someone back to life, but then what are the repercussions of doing that? And I really like delving into that and the psychological aspects of it, going, okay, well, do they come back exactly the way they were, or do they come back a fraction of who they were, or do they come back completely different? I've touched a little bit on this in the latest issue of XCT Fractured World, where they try recloning a clone, and we wanted to set certain guides around our universe and what happens in that aspect, and it's quite a grotesque and something that's you wouldn't expect to kind of happen. So I like that idea that it isn't just that mainstream, we're just going to bring them back to life, and we're not going to talk about what the repercussions of that, or
the real world implications
of that. So that's kind of really, really cool. What kind of gave you the inspiration or the idea around this story?
So do you want the bummer story or the fun one?
Whichever you want to give.
I can give you both. All right, we'll go with the bummer one first, and then I'll follow up with the fun side of it. The whole concept does come from my own experiences with life and death, and having a heart condition growing up as a kid. I was constantly confronted with the potential of my heart just not working anymore. So when I was really, really little, like I'm talking kindergarten, so 5, 6, I got 2 different viral infections at the same time, which actually scarred my heart tissue. And a couple of years after that, after I had recovered, I almost died again when my heart just decided it didn't want to function properly. And so that was when I was implanted with my first pacemaker. And in the course of this whole 20-year plus journey now, I've come close to dying maybe like 3 times, and actually died technically probably twice now. And the fear of the finality of it and not remembering anything post waking up scared the absolute ever living shit out of me. And I mean, you can kind of piece the dots together. A guy who brings people back from the dead can't die. It was a self-insert initially. And that was my answer to, if I did have a superpower, what would it be? And then started thought experimenting on top of that. And then the fun side of it, I was watching a anime called Fully Cooley in a friend's garage, and there's a particular episode where a giant robot man uses a human boy as a cannon shell, and at an interdimensional alien robot thing. Then the human boy bullet ricochets back into the robot, and then the robot poops it out like a Hershey swirl. So those 2 things basically formed Super Ready Battle Armour.
Wow. Well, I think the best stories always come from a place where you can connect to it emotionally, and I don't think you, like the way you were talking about the series then and what it means to you and your experiences. I think that is the key in regards to selling the book, because that's what is important and what people can connect to. You probably might be surprised at how many people are out there that either in the same position or have thought about the same thing. Myself personally, I'm not a big religious person, and for me, I've always thought that big question, well, what's the point of everything? If you're going to go through 80 years and at the end of it you're just gone, and it's like, well, what was the point of all that type of thing? And is there reincarnation? Do you come back? Is there more to this? What is after? All those type of questions. So I really love to see a story where someone's poured a part of themselves in regards to what they're feeling, what they're thinking, and put it into something like this, because it can be quite nerve-wracking when you're putting out a book, let alone putting out a part of yourself, which is what this is.
Oh, totally agree. Like from the story you've just said, look, it's a passion project, and those are the best stories. Just as a quick aside, look, I had one person once tell me his pitch and pitch of story, and look, I'm not going to be nasty about it, but it was very generic. His original pitch was very, very generic. It was the story you've heard a million times, and look, and you be nice about it. You just go, hey, look, I've heard this, And for whatever reason, he then told me another story, except this one wasn't his pitch. This one was basically something that's happened to him, and um, what happened afterwards. And basically, it was a really, really, it was a dark period of his life. Don't get me wrong, but it was also a very fascinating period of his life. And I actually said to him, dude, ditch the other story, but man, write this one. This is the one I want to hear. And he's going, who's going to care about this one? I'm going, man, your other story, if you designed it well, good looking characters, maybe, but it would be on the shelf with a million other type of stories. You've got a story that nobody else could write. I mean, seriously, I wouldn't even touch it because I've never experienced something like that to touch what he went through. Same with you. Like nobody could write your story because look, I've never had a near death experience, and touch wood. I hope my life goes through really nicely. That doesn't come until I'm 80.
Yes.
But you can write that story. Look, there's no way anybody could write that story about bringing you back to the dead. That whole what's the consequences? Oh man, look, guys. If on the chat or people watching this after the fact, you have to support this. That is a type of story that you will not get any other way. Like, hands up, no way in hell could I write something like that. I wouldn't even touch it. It's something that I have no experience with, and I would butcher it. I would absolutely butcher it. So, if you haven't already, you have to support this one.
Yeah, George has just written a comment saying, agreed, good stories best from something someone can personally relate to, greater emotional connection to characters. So that's 100% spot on. I think when you're able to relate to that situation, it's I don't know for you, but I feel that sometimes comes a little bit easier to write, and a little bit is like a lethargic exercise in regards to getting that out there. I don't know. I don't want to speak for you, but I know that there's
Do you mean
certain things.
cathartic?
Cathartic. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Sorry, cathartic. It's late. Excuse
yeah.
me. My daughter got me up at all hours of the morning this morning. So, but
Sorry.
I know myself that I've written a few things that I haven't released, but that was more for me to be able to get it down on paper and get it out, because I guess, when I was younger, I wasn't able to probably express myself the way I wanted, and writing that down and getting it out that way was cathartic for me, and was quite, lifting a burden off me in the way I was able to work through things. And I think, creating universes and all that is my way of kind of putting in certain things that have happened in my own life, and kind of intertwining those into a story. So, congrats on actually sharing something like this with the world. And as we said before, with Australian creators, with creators in general, we all need support to get our work out there. It is a love and passion, but it is something that requires money to do. So yeah, check out the Kickstarter. It's in the comments. I'll also put it in the link when the YouTube live video is uploaded on YouTube, so that you'll be able to find it there if you're watching this in a replay as well. So yeah.
Oh, look, we'll throw it to the chat. If there's any more comments, please just chuck it on. Otherwise, we'll probably wrap up the next couple of minutes. Look, Bradley, look, thank you so much. Look, it is a great looking story. And I really like the way you've explained it. I think it's fascinating. And I love the idea of delving into the whole morality, the whole existentialism of life and death and purpose beyond it. So, man, guys, please do check it out. It's something it looks fascinating. Any new any new questions from the chat? Let's just check. George holds the last one. Otherwise, look, thank you so much, guys. It's been a fantastic hour. Everybody who's joined and who's added comments, thank you so much. We'll be back next week. Anything, Sean?
I was going to say Bradley's got something to say, and then I'll
yes.
come back with a final little snippet and some exciting news for this live stream in a month's time. But Bradley, take it away.
No worries. I just wanted to announce as well, as a thank you to everyone that's currently backed and anyone who will be backing in the future, we're actually going to be including a A4 print in any physical backings and a digital version of that print as well in all forms of the reward tiers as well.
Awesome.
Amazing. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to say that we were super lucky to be able to secure our first actor guest on the YouTube live stream. So on the 19th of July, we will have actor Dan Furigal, who plays Agron out of Spartacus, live with us on YouTube. Now we will be doing it at a special time to accommodate his schedule. So keep a lookout in regards to that, and we will announce some more details around that. But it'll be the 19th of July. I've booked him in, so you better not pull out now. I've announced it live on YouTube. So. And also what we're doing to add some extra content to our channel, we are uploading our Kickstarter videos every Wednesday night at 10 p.m. Because that's the time we do the shows on Sunday nights at 10 p.m. as well. So on Wednesday nights, you'll be able to check out our Kickstarter videos. We are starting from our very first Kickstarter videos working through to show you the progression that we've hopefully had. I was going back over. I'm not sure that is actually the case, but we thought it would be a great opportunity to share with people our Kickstarter videos, what we've found has worked, what we've changed in different Kickstarter videos, and it was something that we might even talk about next week. But you can check out the first one on Wednesday night at 10 p.m. It is my XCT Most Wanted anthology one. Do ignore the flowers in the background. I don't know what I was thinking, but it is interesting to see and go back and have a look at your videos. But thank you very much for coming on, Bradley. We really appreciate your time. Stephen, as always, thank you. No problem, Stephen. Thank you again for being a part of this, and thanks for everyone that has come on. It does seem like a few people are upset that we're actually on schedule and it's an hour. This is supposed to be an hour show, guys. It's not supposed to go for an hour and a half or 2 hours as it has been over the last few weeks. But we're slowly getting better, and we're working things into the show that we'll hopefully be able to show you over the next few weeks as well.
Okay, see you guys.
See you guys.
See ya.